opportunity to contribute to this amendment is highly appreciated. And Mr. Speaker, I do rise to support a good friend of mine, the Honorable Kasim Tandaza Sawa, on this amendment that he's making to the crops bill. Mr. Speaker, it is very clear that the Honorable Tandaza did not waste his school fees at Alliance High School. In fact, in moving this bill, we were totally impressed by the amount of research that had gone into his effort to amend the crops bill. And for that, I must commend the Honorable Kasim Tandaza Sawa. Mheshimiwa, the Honorable Speaker, I've got to say that from what is coming out is that this crop by the name Bixa, which is locally referred to as Mrangi, is important to the economy of the coast. But not only for the economy of the coast, Mr. Speaker, but it looks like it can be a crop that will be very meaningful to the economy of the entire country. Mr. Speaker, I think the opportunity that we have been given here in this amendment is an opportunity for us to look holistically at the whole issue of agriculture in this country, Mr. Speaker. It is a point where we can start questioning ourselves in how we have been conducting the business of agriculture in this country, because we are always told that you should not look at someone's priorities by how they list them. We should look at someone's priorities by how they prioritize the investment into these priorities, Mr. Speaker. But we have not been prioritizing an investment on our agriculture, Mr. Speaker. I think it is important, as we are looking at this amendment, to rethink the whole model of agriculture in this country. Let's think about our rain-fed agriculture, Mr. Speaker. It always puzzles me, Mr. Speaker, that we are able to take a commodity like petroleum all the way from coast at the port to the farthest corners of this country, that if you wanted petroleum in any corner of this country, you only need to drive to a petrol station and you shall be able to refuel. Mr. Speaker, it puzzles me why we have not been able to take advantage of the Lake Victoria, which is the largest freshwater lake in Africa. In the same way that we are able to pipe petroleum, Mr. Speaker, it puzzles me how we are not able to pipe water to the far-flung corners of this country, Mr. Speaker. And that is why I'm saying it is an important time to relook at how we do agriculture in this country. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this amendment, understanding that this crop called Bixa, as we are being told, is drought resistant, Mr. Speaker. It is disease resistant. It is pest resistant, Mr. Speaker. We are also understanding that by listing it as a cash crop, we shall be forcing our government to start investing a bit more on this crop. And by investment, I'm talking about a through-the-line investment, Mr. Speaker, because we are told that this crop is a crop that doesn't go to waste. Even as we extract products from the seed, we understand that there is much more that can be done in terms of value addition, Mr. Speaker, to this crop that would mean more economically beyond just the traditional agriculture of the crop, Mr. Speaker. By relooking at our agriculture, Mr. Speaker, we shall be speaking to the issue of the Big Four. Mr. Speaker, in my critique of the Big Four agenda, I understand that it is important that we take cognizance of the need for health, the need for urban housing and housing, Mr. Speaker. But I do believe that if we took a single big one in the name of agriculture, we shall be addressing all the other three Big Four agendas by just investing in agriculture, Mr. Speaker. If we invested properly in agriculture, our people who are farmers predominantly will be able to get an extra buck. With an extra buck, the population will be able to pay a bit more for their health insurance, thus supporting the big health agenda. The same people will have some disposable income, meaning that they will be able to improve their livelihood, meaning that they will be able to invest a bit more in the quality of housing that they do, Mr. Speaker. That by just addressing a big one in the Big Four, we shall have addressed all the other Big Four agendas, including industrialization, Mr. Speaker. Because if we invested well in our agriculture, we shall end up going into value addition. We shall end up in cottage industries, Mr. Speaker. And with this, we shall also be growing industrialization in this country. Mr. Speaker, it was important to me that this crop is disease resistant. It was not lost to me that this crop is pest resistant. So I think, Mr. Speaker, even as we are talking about Bixa, it is time we stopped being cowards as a house and started looking at other crops, Mr. Speaker, that would be beneficial to this country that are of the nature of this crop that is called Bixa. Our organic traditional foods, Mr. Speaker, we're in a situation where our country's health system is overburdened with cases of cancer, Mr. Speaker. We are learning that it is out of what we eat that we are ending up with a morphology of people's bodies to a point where they are not resistant to some of these diseases. We are honored this morning to have in chamber a very esteemed doctor by the name Dr. Nyikal, who I'm sure will be contributing to this later, but he would advise us and tell us that it is out of the things that we are eating, most of which are not organic foods, that we are ending up with the cases of cancer, Mr. Speaker. But even as we look at crops for consumption, we've also got to drop our cowardice, Mr. Speaker. Maybe it is time we started looking at other disease-resistant crops, other pest-resistant crops, Mr. Speaker. And I would like to say that I feel it is a time we also considered the legalization of marijuana in this country, Mr. Speaker. I'm talking this knowing and understanding well that marijuana, just as Bixa is disease resistant. It is pest resistant. But even just as Bixa is, we understand the through-the-line benefits of a crop like marijuana, which would be produced for its industrial use and medicinal use. Mr. Speaker, every time we bring up the issue of legalizing the farming of marijuana, we realize that there is so much pushback because people are resistant to the recreational use of marijuana. But Mr. Speaker, by legalizing a crop like marijuana, we are not calling for the recreational use of such a crop. In fact, what we are doing is calling for us to open our minds to explore the benefits that can accrue from farming a crop that is not affected by drought, is not affected by pests, is not affected by disease, but can also benefit us through the line from the industrial use of hemp all the way to the medicinal use of cannabis, Mr. Speaker. This is a discussion that we will now need to reopen as we have a holistic look at how we tackle agriculture, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do believe that if this House was to put its mind into this issue of rethinking our agriculture holistically, then we would find benefit in crops such as Bixa and crops that are drought resistant, pest resistant, and disease resistant, like I have mentioned, marijuana. Mr. Speaker, the opportunity to contribute to this has been very well appreciated, and I do support that we amend the crops bill in favor of what has been proposed by the Honorable Tandaza Kasim Sawa. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Nyikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to talk about this bill. Mr. Speaker, let me start by appreciating the honorable member who